We'll call the Barron County Board of Supervisors into order for Monday, June 20th, 2022. And the first thing we'll have is roll call.
All right, we're gonna start with Glenn Hansen,
Here.
Stacy Benzel. Here. Dana Heller,
Here.
Bob Anderson,
Here.
Dan Buchanan,
Here.
Audrey Kusler. Here. Bill Efforts. Anybody here from Bill? Craig Turcott,
Here.
Dale Heineke,
Here.
Bob Rogers,
Here.
Diane Vaughn. Here. John Banks.
Here.
Terry Lee,
Here.
virtual. Carolyn Bartlett. Here. Pam Falk.
Here.
Bill Schradel,
Present.
Gary Taxka,
He was at the incinerator, so he should be here.
not yet.
Or coming sooner.
Jim Gores.
Here.
Okay. Gary Nelson.
Here.
Roberta Mosentine.
Here.
Pete Olson.
Here. He's on.
Kathy Krug. Here. Carol Mullen. Here. Fran Lehman.
Here.
Louis Oki.
Here.
Patty Anderson. Here.
Gary just walked in.
Perfect. Randy Cook.
Here.
Jerry McRoberts.
Here.
And Mark Thompson.
Present.
All right, we have 28 present, with 1 absent.
Okay, public notification.
I, Jessica Hodak, Deputy County Clerk, comply with the open meeting public notification laws. Meeting notices are posted on the electronic meeting notice boards on the first and second floor of the Government Center and the main floor of the Justice Center. In addition, all 5 of the county newspapers have been notified.
Item 2, we'll have an invocation by Pastor Wayne Hall from the Abundant Life Church in Cameron. All yours, Pastor.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for the members of this county board. Bless them and the hours and energy that they put in to make this county the better place to live. Bless their families as well as the other county workers, the businesses and the workers who make this a great place to live. Bless our farmers and all our residents. Give this board great wisdom tonight in the decisions before them. We thank you for the hand of blessing that you have put over our county. In the name of Jesus, we thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3, special passage and announcement. Okay, on the agenda, I'd like to change a couple items if it's okay with everyone out there. I'd like on item to have a consent agenda, which means we take them all as one item, one motion. That would be for item 13, 14, 15, and 17. 13, 14, 15, and 17. 13 is about budget preparation. 14 is about the examiner fees. 15 is about basically having down to 2 counties instead of 3. And 15 is a prisoner out of county prisoner revenue, and we're changing where those funds will go. And then let's see, 17 was reaffirming Barron County's support for fair housing.
I'm gonna ask you to pull 15 as a standalone item. One of the members has already talked to me. They would like to address that specifically. So could we please pull 15? So it'd be 13, 14, and 17?
Yep.
Because 15 I've been asked to discuss.
Okay, so 12, 15, and 16 would be separate. And also, okay, so consent agenda would be 13, 14, and 17. And then, as item 11, the zoning ordinance amendments, A through E, I'd like to take as one motion. Does anybody have a problem with any of those? If not, I need a motion to approve the agenda with, again, putting 13, 14, and 17 as one agenda, or one consent item, and item number 11, all A through E is one motion. A motion by Supervisor Buchanan, seconded by Supervisor Schradel. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor of approving that agenda indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign? That motion's carried. Number 5, approve the minutes of May 16th, 2022. Motion by Supervisor Heller, second by Supervisor Heineke. Anybody have any concerns? Not all is in favor of approving those minutes of May 16th, 2022, indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed by the same sign? That motion's carried. Public comment. We've got 4 of them this evening. Is everybody aware you get 3 minutes to talk and public comment? And is the mic working up here?
Yes.
So if Mary Heft, would you please come up to the mic, please? She'll be talking about restorative justice. You state your name and your address, please.
Mary Heft, 735 Baroque Place, Rice Lake. In 1998, our Barron County Circuit Court Judge Ed Bruner went in search of a viable alternative to the incarceration of nonviolent offenders. He knew that incarceration was right for some, but certainly not for most. He found that alternative in victim offender conferencing. He brought it back to Barron County. He gathered the movers and the shakers in the county, and he said, get this program started. It needs to be independent of the courts. It needs to be independent of law enforcement, of social services. It needs to be a community way of letting offenders know that they have a second chance, a chance to make things right. So in 1998, I became a volunteer facilitator for victim offender conferencing. And over the years, 10,000 residents of Barron County, 10,000, have participated in a restorative conference. Does that conference work? Our Eric Casper, Dr. Eric Casper, political scientist, 7 years after the program started, took a look at 12 counties with similar demographics in Wisconsin to Barron County. And he found that nonviolent crime, like vandalism among juveniles, was 58% greater in the counties that did not have our program. He also found that in Barron County, juvenile arrests were plummeting. To send a juvenile to Lincoln Hills or to Copper Lake costs $397,000 a year in taxpayer money, in county taxpayer money. On average, each county in Wisconsin sends 3 juveniles to Lincoln Hills or to Copper Lake. Not true of Barron County. In the last 10 years, we have sent 1 juvenile, 1, saving Barron County taxpayers millions of dollars. You probably know, you have the book in front of you. Barron County Restorative Justice Programs is incredible, but a few months ago, Goodwill, its sponsor, pulled its sponsorship from Barron County Restorative Justice Programs because our 5 members could not meet their requirements. And so what the sheriff did and what Stacy Frolick did, who were both on the advisory board, rather than say, let's find another backer, what they said is, we'll assume some of the programs. We'll get rid of school community outreach workers. We'll probably get rid of victim impact panels. We don't really have the ability to take on restorative conferencing. And no, they don't and they shouldn't. So I ask you, County Board, I ask you, this program's too important to let fall between the cracks. I have a solution. I know I don't have time to say it in 3 minutes. I hope you'll invite me back to talk about it, a way we can save Barron County restorative justice for the community, for the welfare of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, item number, the second person is Keith Newman, here to talk about the Luther Park zoning. And Keith, just state your name and address.
Okay. My name is Keith Newman. I'm the Executive Director of Luther Park Bible Camp. Just speaking again, my address is 175 Pine Grove in Chautauqua, but the address for the camp is 944 24 Street, Chautauqua. Speaking against the rezoning of the Carrie Hartman Rada lots across the street from the camp. Camp's been there for 90 years, way before most of the neighbors. We have over 1,000 kids each summer. Right now, we have about 110. Last week, we had a little over 150. I'm just concerned about the potential for what could happen in the future. Part of the reason for stating this and sending you a letter is for our insurance and for you guys to know that we just want it on public record that we are very concerned about what could happen. The present owners, I'm not too worried about. I'm just worried about the future and the rezoning of what could happen. So I think it's just a dangerous precedent. And again, my job is to protect children. Plain and simple.
Thank you. And Wendy Newman? Imagine you're related. Name and address?
Wendy Newman. I also live at 175 Pine Grove Avenue. I'm here to speak to the same zoning issue, but from a little bit different aspect. I did attend the zoning hearing as well. And looking at the zoning ordinances, I am a little concerned, confused about how they will comply with what is spelled out under 17.636, and then the subsection is C3. My understanding from reading the ordinance is that the property owner is the individual allowed to have the recreation vehicles on site. There are 2 lots asking to be rezoned, no principal structures on either lot. Per the ordinance, there can be 2 vehicles by the owner of the property. There's one person that owns the property who I guess would stay in the 4 recreational vehicles. This was brought up at zoning. I called the zoning office the following day just to follow up with a very nice young lady in the office. And I said, so if we're concerned, then who's the person who makes sure that this individual is compliant if this is rezoned? That it's a landowner that's putting the RV on there and that the RV is put there following the proper permit. And essentially I was told that would be based on complaints and concerns. Again, we try and be really good neighbors. I don't think that is for Luther Park to police and have to be aware of, but as stated by Keith Newman, for the safety of our campers, we need to know who is next to our property. It's an unfortunate loophole. Again, nothing against the current landowners, but going forward, when that's rezoned and people can put RVs over there, we really won't know who is there when the children are on site, which is a huge concern for us. And I would think as well, if the zoning ordinance isn't rezoned and there's trouble for us, I'm just not sure where the liability would be for the county as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one is Patty Green. Okay, thanks, Patty. Okay, item number 7, update on restorative justice. Stacy, and our sheriff is extremely busy tonight, so he won't be here, but Stacy will handle it.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, Stacy Frolick, Director of Health and Human Services, and I'm here to give an update on restorative justice and where things are at currently as of today in the county. I'm actually not going to recap the history because I was going to lay that forward, but Ms. Heff certainly did a nice job with that. So you know how long restorative justice has been an important part of Barron County, dating back to 1998. And so just a little more of the recent history is that Sheriff Fitzgerald and I do have served on the advisory committee, and it seems as though there became some troubled waters in the fall of 2021. There were some policy changes that came down from Goodwill that really didn't align with some of the current programming that they were doing. They were having a hard time staffing their programs. One of their programs, which is the community outreach program, seemed to be a feeder program for staff that the school hired on, because the restorative justice would have their community outreach workers, and then the school, maybe through extra funding or grant money that came in, they would hire those folks on, bring them into the school, and then restorative justice was looking to have to backfill those positions again. And so they did have some issues with recruitment and retention of quite a few of their staff. I believe they were down to just 2 staff as of December that were actively working. And then in December of 2021, the executive director provided her resignation to Restorative Justice to Goodwill of North Central Wisconsin. And so at that point, the sheriff and I were quite concerned, to say the least, of what direction, where's restorative justice going to go? We, again, over the years, believe that restorative justice is important. Again, as was stated earlier by Mary, it has saved the county a lot of money over the years. The principles are great principles. So the sheriff and I had done some discussion with our judges, with County Administrator French, with the district attorney's office. We also had communication with the Goodwill director for this area in terms of how can we make sure that we continue these practices and principles for Barron County. And so the sheriff and I did put together a plan that included the sheriff would do Prime for Life programming for youth underage drinkers. He would do the Catch My Breath programming. He would do the teen traffic violation programs, and then the Safe Serve programs. And then the Health and Human Services would take on the victim offender conferencing, wrong term. The restorative conferencing used to be victim offender, but restorative conferencing, reframed cognitive functioning program, as well as the victim impact panel. The victim impact panel is for those who are convicted of OWI, as well as youth who are about to get their driver's license. So that the Department of Health and Human Services would take those programs on, and then we'd work collaboratively with the court systems and the district attorney's office for diversion court. And so we had pitched this plan to the advisory committee back in February, and it seemed as though we, based on the vote that day, we had support to move this forward, knowing that there would be some work. Restorative justice would look a little bit different from the inside. Hopefully the external community wouldn't see a huge difference. There wouldn't be a huge gap of services. But one of the areas, and again, Mary mentioned this earlier, that really we recognize needs a lot of work and support is restorative conferencing. It used to be a very large part of restorative justice, and from May 21 to May of 22, there were 3 adult conferences and 4 youth conferences. And I didn't know this, but apparently they did over 100 in some years. And so this really is a program area that we've seen a great decline in. The sheriff's hope and my hope is that we can partner with some of the founders of restorative justice who have the passion, bring the passion, such as Mary does and Polly Wollner do, to be able to create and revitalize restorative conferencing to a point that we once saw it here in the county. Again, we believe in restorative practices. We've done things, we're doing Restart in the jail, we do Family Drug Treatment Court, we do Drug and Alcohol Court. Our most recent endeavor is the Mental Health Co-Responder Program. So all things that are not lock them up and throw away the key concepts. They're more prevention, early intervention types of, and making our community whole types of practices. And so we're not asking for any action tonight. Just know that this was out in the paper within the last couple of weeks. We know that there's some folks in the community who really have great passion for this, probably have been reaching out to some of you. My commitment is, and I can speak for the sheriff too, our commitment is to continue to work collaboratively. Down the road, we may come back and, put a plan out in front of you that, says this is what we're going to do. This is exactly what we're going to do. And maybe ask for some funding. I'm not saying we aren't going to do that, but this needs to be a work in progress. It's something that was not built overnight. It didn't go on the decline overnight, and it's not going to be rebuilt overnight. And so I think taking some time to strategize, figure out how we can be most cost conscious about this, but yet be effective in our programming for the county, in my opinion, is what is most important. Yes.
How much money did Goodwill put into it?
So I can't tell you for victim offender or restorative conferencing itself, but I can tell you for restorative justice overall, how much did they put in. In 2019, Goodwill put in $166,000. In 2020, they put in $71,000, and in 2021, Goodwill put in $110,882. So, and that was to administer all of the programs. We believe that with the exception of restorative conferencing, we can probably roll most of those costs into our current Sheriff's Department and Health and Human Services operating budgets. Because we're gonna use existing staff to do a lot of that programming and really capitalize on their strengths and areas to be able to administer this program. Yes.
I was told that, I did some research on this from quite a few people, actually my constituents have been calling me. If this was such a good program and other counties have modeled their program after ours, why can't we fix it? And why can't you find someone else? Because if they can't meet what Goodwill wanted the people to do, why can't you go out and find other people, write grants? I would be willing to work with them to find some funding to do it. From 1998, if Judge Bruner said that it should be neutral, I believe that. So if I broke somebody's window when I was a kid, I would go over to his house and say, I broke your window with the baseball. How much is it? My mom and dad will pay for it. But today, if a kid went to a house, you might get shot or anything like that. So being neutral, I think, is the good thing, because if the sheriff comes to your house, oh my gosh, you're going to say anything or do anything. But if somebody, just a nice person, comes and talks to you and says, hey, this kid broke your window, can he make amends for that? So I think I would be willing to help find funding to keep the program going and learn to write grants for it.
Well, I appreciate that offer. And I think that's absolutely, you know what, the sheriff and the Department of Health and Human Services and the county weren't like standing there waiting to be able to take this program on. It was, what we saw is a short means to an end to make sure that this programming didn't die and go away.
Right.
So I'm not saying that what this plan is in its current state is what it'll look like in a year or 2 years down the road. It's a means to keep it alive. Again, like I said, I can't say enough. We don't want this to go away either, but it was a means to be able to continue to support it and make sure it doesn't just die and, go by the wayside like some programs do. Go ahead.
Stacy, would you tell them what Goodwill, what the reasoning was and why those people were let go?
I don't know if I can.
Okay, so they wanted, if there was a child being.
Okay, so you're talking about the policy with community outreach workers.
What the policies, why they changed.
Okay, so the community outreach workers, which was a program that I actually was very involved in and was a part of helping get going. It's a program to work with pre-truancy and at-risk kids in the school districts. And last year they served 89 kids, but that was very low considering how many kids they served over many, many years that this program was in place. And the policy changed from Goodwill that they could no longer, that community outreach worker could no longer see that child without an adult present. And so they couldn't do work primarily with the child, whether that be at the school, in the home, in the community, which really limits the ability to do good work with that individual child. And so that program, I think, is something that really had gone away before restorative justice went away anyway, because of that policy change. I think it was March of this year that the last community outreach worker was employed through, it was right around that time. And so that is actually an additional issue to all of this, is that, if there's another nonprofit, I know that there's been some outreach to the Salvation Army and they had some interest in supporting this, didn't feel like they were necessarily in a position right now to be able to support it. But if there is another nonprofit in the community that's interested, I think that's got to be one of those really prevalent conversations that's had, is that the foundation for this program is that these workers have the ability to be able to do this. And so, you're right, that was kind of the demise of that program, because it really was the foundation that made it successful.
But the pre-truancy that the social outreach workers did, no one has picked that up, correct?
No, exactly.
So
No,
that
as
is-
of March, that ended. What I will say to that is all of those workers had been, to my knowledge, all of those workers were absorbed into their respective school districts. So through mental health,
Not all.
not all of them, okay. So many, many of them were absorbed into the school district. But you're right, no, that program has not been picked up anywhere. I've had some communication with Eau Claire County. They have a similar program to community outreach. Ours was a grassroots program, and so it, of course, doesn't look exactly the same. But similar type programming where it didn't have ties to law enforcement, didn't have ties to the department. And I think that's another program where that's really important to have that independent standalone, because the department brings in an inherent power as well as the sheriff's department does. And I think that if you are gonna make some headway with families, it is important to have that independence from our departments.
I really believe our Health and Human Services Department and Sheriff's Department will do everything they can to make those programs as good as they were previously. And I would encourage any of the supervisors or any of the general public to work with those two departments, give them your suggestions, help them, do anything you can to continue that, because those programs are what helps Barron County maintain the level of service we have to our people and keep people out of jails and that. So I applaud you if you could, just continue to do that.
And Mary and I are meeting next week to talk. We've done a lot of back and forth emails that gets really difficult, having a sit down conversation, being able to kind of get everybody's ideas on the table. Look at what's a feasible proposal. Does it need more money? Can we work within the confines of what we have? I think those are important conversations to have and something I'm very committed to. And right, Patty, if you're interested, or Audrey or other people are interested or have ideas, certainly get in contact with me. And this is not the last conversation we're going to have. It is a place where we have to start the conversation. And I would be remiss if I don't ask to read the sheriff's statement, because he might be very mad at me.
Okay, go ahead.
So just another minute. This is in his writing, so bear with me if I stumble over a word or two. Barron County is different, better than most counties. I know we are all biased, but we've told you for a while now that we work together better than most counties around, and it's paying off. We do prevention better than anyone around, and that includes doing restorative justice programming. Credit for some of this needs to go to Polly Woolner and Mary Hepp. They pushed us to be better. But we, two of your largest department heads, are standing before you telling you we can do this for less money and are excited to expand restorative justice practices. Will it look different from the inside? Yes, but from the outside, I don't think anyone would know except for the number they're calling to make a referral. We have already streamlined the process to lighten the load on the district attorney's office and the courts. We already have plans in place to strengthen our already successful diversion court. Without this, we do not think that restorative justice would be here today. It was fading and needed a jump start. Stacy and I worked on that, and we put a plan together. Restorative justice is important to Barron County, but we can do most of it in-house. We will need the help of those like Mary and others to bring back victim conferencing, because I agree it needs to be separate, but this is the only part of restorative justice that needs to be separate. You see, my deputies and our social workers work hard to develop relationships every day. Teaching a class in lieu of a citation will only strengthen that. Heck, it'll probably make it even stronger, because we both learn to see each other in a different light. We are here to give you an update and are not asking for a vote of any kind, because this is operational. But I am asking that all of you support this effort put forth by two department heads, supported by our judges, DA, and county administrator. Believe in us as we believe in the process.
In the interest for the people online, and if I call on you, I'm supposed to actually call on you before you speak, but we're not going to get too formal. If I don't call on you and you're recognized to speak, please say your name, just so the people online, so on tape they know who's talking. Any additional questions? Supervisor Rogers?
Bob Rogers, Stacy, hi.
Hello.
So as I understand it, with the exception of the restorative conferencing, you and Chris have come together with at least a temporary plan
for handling the other aspects of this. Do you have any kind of a time frame? Can you, as to when, I don't want this to fall through the cracks.
Right.
Do you have any kind of an idea as to how long it may take for you and others that are interested to present a more permanent plan?
Yes, so we have already started working on, we've got the referral form completed. We've got an administrative structure in place to receive referrals. I'm working on victim impact panel. That is one of the programs that we're gonna kind of continue to look at and make sure that it's evidence-based, that it's serving the correct purpose. But I've talked to a couple volunteers who have actually facilitated the victim impact panel prior. They're interested in continuing to do that. So I would expect, this sheriff also, Prime for Life training is now online. And so he has signed his deputies up to take that training. There's been a few glitches in that registration and getting that going. But I would expect by the end of summer, we'll have something more solid in place to be able to come back and present a plan. If it's how are we gonna do restorative conferencing or community outreach, we probably will be in the position of giving you an update. I don't know that we'll necessarily have that off the ground by that point, but it is something that we're continually moving along. And we worked really hard Goodwill was really good about helping us transition out of that. One of the things that we found, and we are really concerned to make sure that we do better, is data collection. There wasn't a great data collection system until a year ago. And so we think that's really important because as we come back here and give reports out or ask money for budgetary purposes, those kinds of things, we know numbers are important and stories and outcomes are important. So to answer your question, I would say probably by the end of summer, early fall, we should have another update in terms of where we're at with programming.
Any additional questions or concerns?
Sounds like Stacy and Mary are trying to do the same. They're not fighting.
Well, yeah, we're not been on the same page necessarily. I'm not gonna say that, but I think that if we can come together in the fact that we all have a passion to make sure that this continues, and we might have to give a little and we might have to, it's not maybe gonna look perfect, but how can we make sure we get it back off the ground and get serving folks in the community as we had been previously?
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 8, the ATV UTV trail changes and ordinance amendment. Supervisor Heller.
Chairman Oki, with your permission, I'd like to recuse myself from this item number.
Yes, well, if you recuse yourself, you won't be able to vote or make any comments on this matter, and I think that's wise on your part. So yes, you're recused. Okay, item number A, I guess I'll speak to first. Those are on your packet, pages 12 and 11. Those, that draft ordinance is no longer applicable. Our corp counsel, John Minch, is working on an amendment that will include the things that our supervisor or Commissioner Serby is going to be talking about. So A is just not in there right now, and B is the ordinance that we're designating additional portions of county highways as ATV, UTV routes, and through a lot of hard work with our sheriff's department and our highway department, our administration, and even, I guess, land services, a big collaborative effort. They've got what I think is a good plan, and it's been recommended by our highway department. So go ahead, Mark.
Good with the map. Thanks, Jody.
Yep.
Good evening. So as Chairman Oki was saying, the Highway Committee directed the Highway Department staff to look at the county highway system and make some recommendations in terms of opening the entire system up with an eye on safety. That was always the big thing that we've been concerned about, what the committee is concerned about. When the facts show that 60 to 70.
Can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
Let that up a bit, Mark. Yeah, like that.
Is that better?
No, get it, the mouth in there. It's not.
You've always been able to talk about.
Better.
I'll talk louder too. My voice has a little allergies and whatnot. So with any plan that you're going to put on the road, the responsibility of the highway department really is the safety of the system. Okay. it's known that 60 to 70% of the fatalities in ATVs accidents occur on roadways between town roads and county roads right now in the state of Wisconsin. So with an eye on that, and then again, saying safety is our number one concern, and that's what drives this map. What we've looked at is we've looked at eliminating intersection issues. We've looked at eliminating high-risk sections, and because we have some sand hauling routes that are ongoing, we looked at those. So what I'd like to do is just kind of just cruise around the map real quickly. We'll start at number 1. This is Highway G, where it comes out on Highway 63. There is nothing across the road that's open. It's a T intersection, as are many of these. So we would propose like the last mile not being open, but then the workaround to keep going, the town road system, in all directions in Crystal Lake is open. So we can go this way and head across to P. So we've worked around that one. Number 2 is Highway V, south of B, right in this area right here. The problem with this is I think it's 17th and 2nd. 16th Street, excuse me. 16th Street in the town of Stanfield is not open. As a matter of fact, the only roads that are open in the town of Stanfield is the sections of 18th that they control on the borders. So there's no place for anyone that goes this way to go when they get down here. So we'd be encouraging them to go on roads that are closed. So we would propose closing or marking V at the B intersection as being a no-fly zone for ATVs, if you will. The third section is up here on SS, north of Rice Lake. This is a little bit different section than some of the ones down south that we'll talk about on SS. The traffic isn't as bad here, but there is a trail right alongside of SS that runs the whole length from Rice Lake all the way up to Hagen and north into Washburn County. There's a trail that runs right alongside of 100 feet away from the Highway SS. So we felt that there is a viable alternative already there. So we would not open that section of SS under this proposal. Number 5 is up in Angus, where T comes out on 48. Same type of situation there. There's no place for them to go, and you'd be encouraging them to kick out onto 48 and go in one direction or the other, and we don't want to do that. Number 6 is V and 48, same type of situation. It's a T intersection with a state highway. And then keep in mind that back in here, there is a little section open before this town road that would allow the people from this subdivision access down V, and then they can get on. All the Cedar Lakes roads are open, so they have a way out there. Number 7 is just shown, that's double N and the Highway 48 intersection. Again, it's not a T intersection, it's kind of a Y intersection where both legs open up onto 48. The workaround there, that being closed at that point, we will step back. None of the state highways are open for ATVs and UTVs, and none of them, according to DOT, ever will be, because of traffic loads and other concerns. So we can't really kick people out onto the state system because that's an illegal move. So going on double N, there is a workaround here also. The town roads are open so they can continue on their way, and that's a dead end, not a dead end, but T intersection there. Number 8, if we go over by Clinton at Poskin, I think everybody's aware where F comes up onto Highway 8. That is a very poor visibility intersection. Again, same situation. There's no place to go when you get there. So what we would propose to do is about a mile south, the town roads cross, we would sign that this would not be open, but there's alternatives to get around on the town roads. Number 9 is that's the small section of Highway W by the auction barn there from 17th over to 8. Again, once they get there, you're on Highway 8. There's no real place to go. So if we stop them on W on 17th, they can go north. They can actually go south too, but primarily they would go north. Number 10 is the intersection of Highway 8 and O. that has a high, very high crash rate. Matter of fact, DOT is doing some additional signing in that area right now to draw attention to that intersection. So we thought the last thing that we'd want to do was to kick people out into that situation. So if we go back to the next road south, if you go back, you go underneath 53 here. So you're not crossing 53, you're actually going under 53. And then bring them around to W and they can continue on the way. Number 11 is Highway SS between Rice Lake and Cameron. Extremely high traffic. That's our highest ADT in the county. On the south end, it's about 8,200 by Cameron, 8,200 cars a day. On the north end, it's over 13,000. So there's a problem with that is, this is a very wide pavement down here. This is a 4-lane road too, very rolling topography. I think everybody knows that. When you get up to Rice Lake again, at the city limits, that is no longer County Trunk Highway SS, that is Main Street in Rice Lake, and Main Street in Rice Lake is closed. So again, if we come up here, where do we go with the traffic? It isn't a good situation for us. Number 12 is SS between Cameron and Rice Lake. Another high traffic area, very high speed. The sheriff tells me that they get a lot of speeders in that area, and there is a good crash history. Excuse me, a bad crash history, never a good crash history. There's a bad crash history in that area. So that area, again, we would have a workaround that currently Prairie Lake, in here, you can go up and run the town roads parallel to and skip back and forth. So that's a workaround on that section. Number 13 is down here at U and 25. Again, the same situation. It's a T intersection with no place to go except on the state highway. So if we go back about 1.5 miles, you can take town roads and you can get yourself around there because the town is open. Number 14 is the intersection of A and 25, and there's a bridge on A over Pine Creek. So A comes out from going west, it comes out from Dallas north of the bridge, and then south of the bridge it continues over to Prairie Farm. There's a couple issues with that. Obviously, offset intersection. We can't run the traffic on that. There's no way to get a permit from the DOT. If you recall, several years ago, we had a situation up at McConna where the county applied to the DOT on behalf of the town to get that bridge open. Well, that had the speed limit 35 miles an hour or less, so you could do that. This is a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. We're not going to be able to get that application in there. So again, there's a workaround. You can run town roads around and get around. So it's not like you're just shutting it off. That last mile you're shutting off. 15 from A&I up to 6 3/8. That is a very heavily used now. Again, there's a sand haul, different company in there now, and they're hauling like crazy, and they anticipate that they're going to be hauling like crazy for a while. That mix of heavy truck traffic and ATVs and UTVs is not a good thing, especially at speed. So that was one area that if the sand industry had not been here, that would be fine to open. But with all of that trucking on there, we do not feel that's a safe thing to do. We are opening, however, from 6 3/8, which is the road that goes to the campgrounds down on Chautauqua River. So you'd be able to come up from the Chautauqua River campgrounds, get onto I, and run I into Chautauqua. If we really didn't want to do that with A being open to the south, there would be an out that way also. That's kind of a little sticky spot, but we're recognizing that there's turning motions going on. There's people slowing in that area, so maybe that would function okay for us. And 16 again is down here in this is active sand mine here, and then the town of Dover is not opening this road, so there's really no place for them to go. Double A, we would close all the way up here because when they get down here again, none of the town roads are open, so there's no way to go. So we would close the intersection at A and double A, we would close that. And there's one that's on here that we need to talk about and we need to add to the ordinance. And I don't know how we missed this. Where's Rice Lake? Get me up.
I think you've got it green, don't you?
Yeah, we do. It's green, which means we.
Yeah, we got it open, that's right. That's
So-
County owned by
Yeah, okay.
Walmart.
So I don't know if it's my glasses here now. Right here, right
Yeah,
here.
right there.
Okay, that section of Highway O, from the roundabouts on 19th to the Red Cedar River is actually County Trunk Highway O. Once you get to the Red Cedar River, that becomes a city street, okay? The city street is not open for ATV traffic. Actually, 19th coming in both directions to O is not open, so we could say we'd just be mute on it. But if somebody got there, it would be open, and that's an area we really shouldn't have. That's higher traffic than probably even north between Rice Lake and Cameron. So that's one we would ask. That would be number 17. Then we would want to put O from 19th to the Red Cedar River on that.
So what we're looking for here is a motion that we approve this map. Well, basically, we had three alternatives for ATVs. One, to keep like we are with the ordinance we have, just for connectivity, which does not have a lot of the county roads open. The only ones that are open is when you want to connect from one trail or something to the other. The second one could be open everything, which I don't think is a wise idea. The third is what Mark is proposing here, that we open all county roads except for the 17 ones we've designated. And that we'd be looking for a motion that we would include this map and with the adjustment to item number 17 and on page 25 in your packet, which lists the potentially conflict points, would include County O as well as number 17. So that's kind of what we're looking for.
There's one caveat that the highway department would like to see to that, please. The timing of the road opening. There is a lot of work that's going to have to take place to do the signing for these routes. We are at this particular point in time that we talk to the DOT, we talk to the DNR, we read the guidebooks. We're not sure exactly what we're getting ourselves into, and we'll figure that out as we go here. But for example, it's my understanding that we're not going to open up potentially. I don't want to prejudge. Potentially, we're not going to open up this section of SS. That would mean that every side road that crosses SS, at that side road where you turn on the right-hand side, you have to have a no ATV sign so that they know they can't go there unless it's open, right? Okay, I mean, if the crossing road is open. Taking it further, we have towns that allow ATV use on all of their roads or some of their roads, or maybe either one road. Some of them don't have ordinances. A lot of them, their ordinances don't match what they've opened up. So that's all got to get cleaned up before we can figure out what we have to do on signing. And the other issue with the signing is, quite frankly, I don't have the staff to do it right now. We're heavy in our construction season. We're down on employees. We usually put a bunch of LTEs on, and we're down on employees this year. I just don't have the staff. I usually have 2 people working with my sign person. I don't have anybody with him this year. So what we would like to see, legally, the road system is not considered open until the signs are placed, okay? And what we would like to see is to set, not a target date, but set a date. At May 1 of 2023, we would have all the signs in place, and then it would open, so it would be next spring. My plan would be is that this fall, as we start to wind down, we could start getting posts in, and that's going to be a job all unto itself if you're taking in terms of the utility locates for every sign now you have to put up, so you gotta go out there and locate the sign, go back after they locate it, so you don't puncture through any utilities and we don't buy any fiber cable. So you've got all of that stuff that you have to work through. So our goal would be to get all of the steel posts up, maybe like put a reflector on them for now. And then in the spring of the year, we would divide the county in, say, 8 sections. And we'd have all of the signs, you know, on palletized that you start on this is Highway D. You start here, this is the first sign, the next sign's here. And we concentrate on that with the crew over the course of however long it would take. Maybe it's 2 days, maybe it's 3 days, get the signs all up at once, because to hodgepodge it and say, okay, we're gonna open it up, but now, you know, we're gonna start signing it, and D is open, but P isn't, and T isn't, you're just gonna create a bunch of confusion. The other aspect I wanna just talk about for a second for signing, we do see fair amount of vandalism on these signs. We post a route as open. For example, D going out of Chautauqua past Gilligan's, that way it goes out to, is it Hogsback Road out there, Bob? Is that the name of it? So we post that, you know, we got them to Hogsback Road to connect them so they could get into Chautauqua. And we put a no ATV sign up there. That sign disappeared 4 times last summer. Not knocked down, gone. So that's one issue. The other issue that we've got, and I don't know if this is, I'm not gonna say this is people on ATVs or UTVs, because it could be anybody, but I just wanna make the board aware. You know, you spent $10,000 last year on 2 speed boards, on Highway M by Linda's Lakeshore, Oak Grove campgrounds in that area. Primarily because we were gonna open that section up so that they could get across the bridge to connect the 2 sides of the lakes there, Mud Lake and Kegama. To the south, there's a bridge there. Well, we had a lot of people wanted to go across that. It's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, but it's this kind of thing through there, which is why it's 35 miles an hour. So the county board authorized $10,000 for signs for speed boards. Somebody shot the heck out of one of them with a paint gun last week. My sign man, when he first looked at it, he thought it was junk. He was able to salvage it. It's working and functioning well. So this weekend when I went through there, just prior to that speed board, there's a 35-mile-an-hour sign. It's been painted red now. So, you know, there's vandalism that goes on these signs. I just want to make everybody aware of that. It's not an exact science, and, you know, like I say, we've had issues with the ATV signs, right?
Supervisor Cook, do you have a question?
I do have a question. I appreciate your honesty in terms of the time frame to open these trails. I think given the confusion that it may cause between now and then and seeing signs, and the liability that county would assume, lack of a communication plan to coincide with the signage, I would move that we table this decision until such time Mr. Serby indicates to us that he's ready to do this in one package.
Aren't you saying you're really ready? If we pass this today,
well,
you just won't have the signs of it. You'll have the posts.
No, well, the posts, that's what I'm saying. We wouldn't be able to get the posts up till this fall at the earliest. And that's not gonna be all the posts.
Right.
If I understand what Mr. Cook is saying is that he'd like to table it until we have all the signs in.
Right, and we have a communication plan. What I see happening, because it's already happening, there's confusion on where you can and cannot go. What roads are open and what roads are not open. And I think we add to that, if we pass something tonight and it's not signed, we may have, one, I think we have a liability issue. And 2, how do we correct, how can I say this? Once they think a trail's open, it's always open. I just don't know if right now, and I appreciate your honesty. We want to launch a boat, and this thing's not ready to float.
John, are we having a liability issue if we say it's not being open until May 1st of 2023, and when it's properly signed?
If you passed it tonight, you would make it effective
Yeah.
some future day, so they're closed, other than the ones that are already open.
Except the connectivity that we have right now.
The other risk you run is if you don't act on this and you authorize the commissioner to order all the signs and get ready to put them up, and then this doesn't pass.
And especially with the next motion, we're gonna ask for a resolution. Supervisor Maxwell?
Just for quick console, isn't there a recreational law that protects?
There's the recreational use statute.
Well, NR 64 requires that in order for a road to be opened, it has to be properly signed.
Even recreational?
There's a recreational use immunity statute, but this is a specific statute that Mark's talking about that would you still have the recreational use immunity, but in order to open that road, you need to have it signed. So you've got two conflicting statutes.
Go ahead.
I have one. So I see in the next item, there's $75,000 being asked for to sign the highway system. Does that include all the posts, all the man hours to get it in there, all the locating, all of that stuff?
We hope so. Again, we don't know what the signing plan is really gonna look like. So we kind of looked at just those small sections that we've opened up last year. That cost us over $5,000 in signing. So we kind of looked at it and said, okay, we know we're not gonna spend that amount per mile, but we kind of talked it over and we thought that we should be asking for what we would think to be a reasonable sum. The next move would be, if this is approved, then our engineering tech would get busy with DOT and DNR and figure out exactly what the signing is. We hope it wouldn't get to $75,000. That would be our hope. But right now, we're taking a shot in the dark.
Does DNR provide any money?
I don't think they're going to when you're opening roads, your whole system.
And I attended the Wisconsin County Highway Association, and Mark's a big cog in. And they had the chief police person from Eau Claire County speak there. And because there was discussion, maybe we just had the towns do it and that runs into a lot of issues. Do the towns have the money? Do they, do we have the same standards? It was kind of brought up by them at the counties and highway association. The county should do it. They should pay for it. They should regulate it, make sure it's uniform and everything works as one route in your county.
A lot of the towns have opened their system up under the urging of the ATV clubs, which is fine. But what they've done is shirk their responsibilities and said, okay, we're going to open it up, but club, you're responsible for signing. They don't know anything about the sign standards. The first, as you've heard me say before, the first thing that makes my head explode is when I pull up to a stop sign and you see a ATV arrow on the stop sign. By the manual on uniform traffic control devices, the only sign that is supposed to be on a stop sign is a stop sign. So that's an illegal sign. So now if somebody were to get in an accident, now we have liability because we have an illegal sign.
And I do publicly want to thank the ATV, UTV owners and clubs. They've been working with our sheriff's department, specifically Officer Jeff Wolf, and they've been putting their concerns to him rather than coming to every meeting we have here and inundating us with some concerns. They're working collaboratively with our sheriff's department, so I'd like to thank them. Supervisor.
Would the best
Bartlett?
motion be when it's ready?
No.
I would give it a target date.
Yeah. Supervisor Bartlett?
So point of order, I just want some clarification, because we have not brought the ordinance on the floor. as of
Right,
yet
we
for
have not
approval,
yet.
But we're discussing,
Yes.
but my other question is now, Randy made a motion to table. So, and there's not a second yet,
Right.
but I think we got a motion on the floor. I'm not sure, I'd like to, no?
You did receive a second.
Right. There's
No, it didn't receive
there's
a
no
second.
motion on the floor. I'm looking for a motion that would include this map, include with the revisions that was indicated by Mark, and have an effective date of May 1st, 2023.
Point of clarification, there is a motion. Have you asked for a second?
No, I
ask
haven't.
for a second.
You don't want to?
You don't want to ask for a second?
Oh, okay, is there a second to Mr. Cook's or Supervisor Cook's motion?
I'll make it.
Is that Lehman?
Yep, Supervisor Lehman, so now.
You have a motion and a second,
Now we gotta vote on it.
no, and that's not amendable, so you gotta vote up or down.
And again, my only reason, I'm supportive of the trail system, but if all the things that Mr. Survey and his crew have to do in terms of locating, this may be the fall of 2023. And and that plan may change, and on the roads, I just think approving this tonight is a little bit of a cart before the horse. That's my only,
So your motion is to table this until a future date.
I move to table it until Mr. Survey can give us an open date. If
Is that your second?
If he could tonight tell us.
I believe that's what the 1st of May is. I'm confident that that date is doable. What I'm trying to say is, if you try to do something this summer or this fall, it's not doable. Over the course of the fall and the winter, we can get those posts in. You can drive steel posts into frost. You can't do wood, but you can drive steel.
If May 1st is our date, I will withdraw my motion. Right.
Will you withdraw a second? Okay.
You have to vote this up or down. It belongs to the assembly. You have a motion and a second on the floor. You have to act on this motion to vote it up or down.
Okay, Supervisor Gores.
I personally think that these should be divided up into two motions. First off, let's approve the map or disapprove it, and then we'll do the timeline.
We don't have that motion on the floor to approve the map and all that. Yeah, we've got a motion by Supervisor Cook and Lehman that we actually table it to a future date when the highway.
So you gotta vote
Okay.
the table, so it's not amendable, not debatable, and requires a majority vote.
Correct.
So I gotta vote right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But even-
So,
It's majority.
Yeah.
okay, so all those in favor of passing this motion, Supervisor Cook and seconded by Supervisor Lehman, that we're not gonna pass any of this other stuff. We're gonna basically table this matter to a future date when the highway department thinks it's gonna be accomplished.
Excuse me, Chairman.
Pardon?
Chairman Oki, I hit the thing, my button, raised my hand with a question, if I could please ask it.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm a member of the Law Enforcement Committee, and at the time that the Law Enforcement Committee supported this, there was discussion of some conflicts or differences between state law, county ordinance, and Mr. Minch's opinion. There's 3 reasons that I believe that he's suggesting that the ordinance can't be adopted. One of which concerns open intoxicants in an ATV. And I'm concerned about the fact that if the way this sits, if I understand it correctly, we open it up and somebody can have an open intoxicant on an ATV going down a county road.
Yes, they can, because we cannot supersede state law. State law allows that, and we can't be more restrictive than that.
Well, and
You're right. If Supervisor Cook's motion does not pass, somebody makes a motion that we do make a motion to pass this map and the amendments, yes, you'll be able to do that.
Well, I think that's a significant enough change. I'd like to see this whole thing referred back to the Highway Committee and the law enforcement, because this, what we thought was happening is not going to happen.
Well, I'm not willing to refer that back. I think this has been vetted enough by everybody. Our corp counsels give an opinion on it. I think Andy Phillips from the basically Wisconsin Counties Association's top attorney agrees with corp counsel, and I'm not in the mood to refer it back. Go ahead.
When the highway committee voted at the last meeting on this map and opening these sections of road, they were aware of the fact that the ordinance that we had drafted was not going to be able to be put in place.
They were.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready to vote?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor, again, of Supervisor Cooks and second by Supervisor Lehman motion, that we table this to a future time, please raise your hand. So we have two, the maker of the motion and the second are the only, and Supervisor Olson, so there's three of them. So that motion does not pass. Okay. Can I get a motion, motion by Supervisor?
I would like to.
Thompson?
Supervisor Thompson.
Seconded by Supervisor Schradel, that effective May 1st of 2023, we use this map and use what's on page 25 of our packet, which is with the changes that Mark indicated on Highway County O, that we pass this, and then if we pass that, our Corp Council then will be working on an ordinance, a companion ordinance with that. Is there any further discussion on it? Supervisor Goosey?
Because it's my area, Stanfield, if Stanfield opens up more roads for traffic, will the decision on County Road B butting up against Highway 48 ever change?
That could come back here, and yes, it could.
To the highway.
You'd have to amend, the ordinance would have to be amended to include that section.
And that typically what happens, they go to Officer Wolf, who then confers with Highway, and then it comes through those two committees, and then eventually back here.
Even if they opened up all their township roads, it would still have to come back?
It's still, because
It's an
our ordinance would say that it's not open, we would have to amend to open it. And the reason that it's not being opened, as you're aware, is because there's no place to go when you get down there. So
I know,
if
but
there
if
was
there
a
was a
place,
place.
if there was a way to get there, there's something to go to besides 48, certainly.
Supervisor Vaughn?
So I went out and I drove all these highways in my district, and the one coming into Dallas has two steep hills. And some of there are hills in other areas that are much wider, but there's two coming into Dallas that don't. So have we reviewed all of these for safety concerns, like driven them to see what?
We're familiar with them. It's hard, some of it is gonna be your traffic counts that are on those roads too. When I talked about the topography between Rice Lake and Cameron, you're dealing with, 13,000 cars a day on that section of road. On that section of A down there, maybe you're dealing with, don't hold me to this, I'm gonna say somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 cars a day. There's a significantly less traffic load there. So that you reduce your potential for conflicts. But, I mean, if we were to look for sections of road that were straight and true, and you could see for miles, you're not gonna, a lot of the system isn't gonna be able to be opened. And this is something, I'm not just giving up on this, because I've always been the one saying connectivity is what we should be doing. But the fact of the matter is we have 10,000 ATVs and UTVs registered in Barron County. So approximately 1/4 of the population owns these things. They're looking for a place to ride. It's extremely irritating to me, but they're riding the system now. I mean, there's sections of road I'm on there, all you see is ATVs, and they're not open. So the best thing we can do is open safely, provide routes around the unsafe areas, and that's the best we can do.
So currently, these ATVs can have open containers already.
Yes. Yeah, open container, you can.
The ordinance that was in there that on page, pages, let's see here, 12 and 13, that's no longer applicable. That was our initially proposed one, but we can't do it.
I had a friend of mine in another county bought a UTV, and first time him and his wife went out riding, and they were in the trails, and so they popped a beer and they had it in the council, and he pulled out onto a road, and which happened to be a county road that was open, and he's going down the road. He says he looked behind him, here comes the lights. First time he was ever out, so he pulled over, and the officer walked up and said, see your license and that, and he goes, well, I suppose we're in trouble, because he pointed to the two open intoxicants. And the officer said, no, I'm not worried about that, but you don't have your lights on, and we should have your lights on.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second on the floor to basically allow ATVs in Barron County except as designated. Is there any additional concerns or questions?
And a date.
And a date of May 1st, 2023.
And Ruth will put that in capital letters.
All right, all those against that motion, please raise your hand. Supervisor Olson, is that the only one that doesn't want that ordinance? Okay, so I don't have to. All right. Everybody in favor of it, raise your hand. Okay, it looks like everybody except Supervisor Olson, so that motion passes. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for all your work.
I would like to thank my staff for all they've done on this, and all the other county departments, sheriff's department, and land information. We've got a lot of work to do yet to make this happen. We've got to get with all the towns and find out what their ordinances are. That's why we wanted to do it.
Okay, item number 8C is a resolution authorizing funding not to exceed $75,000 for all-terrain vehicle and utility terrain vehicles, signage of the county road system, and it says not to exceed $75,000. Can I get a motion by Supervisor Hanson, seconded by Supervisor Cook? Is there any further discussion about the signage?
I'll only ask one clarification, Mr. Chairman. Highway Commissioner Serby has rightly pointed out that this expenditure should not occur in the highway fund. So I want it to occur in the general fund under recreation and development, which we're required to do under the Uniform Chart of Accounts. I didn't put it in the resolution. I thought about it after you and I talked.
So you're gonna put that in the resolution now?
We'll spend it out of the general fund where it's under culture and recreation, because that's where it should come from.
That was in the motion.
Yeah. Okay, and Jess, this is gonna be a roll call vote, and we'll need 2/3, which is 20 people.
Mark, do these signs have a certain color, certain shape?
Yeah, they're primarily green with a white sign with a green background primarily. What I've seen on the entrances, because you have to, on every county road now coming into the county, we're gonna have to post a sign that says all Barron County highway road, all Barron County highways are open except as marked. And that's a blue sign. So.
Well, now we've got snowmobile signs too.
Yeah. Snowmobiles generally don't run the road system. They generally run the ditch system, and their trail markers that, for the most part, along the county system come down every year. See, snowmobiles are a little different. You can operate a snowmobile in highway right of way as long as you're 10 foot off the white line. You can't, there's no law that says you can do that with an ATV or UTV because you'd be causing erosion issues.
Snowmobiles run all over Chautauqua to get the quick trip to get gas.
Yeah.
Okay, are you ready, Jess, for a roll call vote?
I am.
Okay, take off. A yes vote means you're, Pat, you agree with this resolution and not to exceed $75,000.
All right, Stacy Wenzel. Yes. Dana Heller abstained. Bob Anderson.
Yes.
Stan Buchanan.
Yes.
Audrey Puslek.
Yes.
Bill Efforts, still absent.
Yep.
Craig Turcotte.
Yes.
Dale Heineke.
Yes.
Bob Rogers.
Yes.
Diane Vaughn.
Yes.
John Banks.
Yes.
Terry Lee.
Yes.
Carolyn Bartlett.
Yes.
Pam Fall.
Yes.
Bill Schradel.
Yes.
Gary Taxel.
Yes.
Jim Gores. You still on?
Jim? Yes or no, Jim? Yes.
Gary Nelson.
Yes.
Roberta Mosety.
Yes.
Pete Olson.
Yes.
Kathy Crew.
Yes.
Carol Moen.
Yes.
Fran Langman.
Yes.
Louis Oki.
Yes.
Patty Anderson.
Yes.
Randy Cook.
Yes.
Jerry McRoberts.
Yes.
Mara Thompson.
Yes.
And Bud Hanson.
Yes.
So we have, one no, one abstained, and the rest are voting yes.
Okay, so that resolution passes. Thanks, everybody. Okay, number 9, Mark, you're up again. Update on the new highway facilities. Go ahead.
I know nothing about it.
Good. Item number 10. Go ahead.
Just, I know he's got the most recent flyover up here, but I'm not really on the look while we talk real quick about where we're at. In the office area, the roof system has been completed now. The concrete floors have been poured. Some of the aluminum stud walls are up. The heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems are being worked on. Electrical's being worked on. In the parts room, locker room area, all of the concrete block walls have been laid up. The electricians are working on installing the transformers. We're getting ready to set some of the equipment for the oil services. The parts room itself is substantially complete, obviously paint and finishes and things like that yet. The locker room areas, all of the in-wall plumbing has been done. None of the fixtures or dividers or anything like that have been hung, and the whole facility needs paint yet. In the mechanics area, the in-floor lift sets, which is what's underground, have all been set and poured in and anchored. A lot of the floor drains are set to grade. On the far end, which is the east end where the sign shop and the sign shop truck and fuel truck parking is, that concrete floor in the sign office has been poured. I believe they're scheduled later this week to pour the sign shop storage office, or that storage area floor, and then they're going to be working their way from the east to the west in the mechanics area. There's also a bunch of overhead work going on in that area, heating, ventilating, air conditioning. They're working off of lifts. In the heated storage area, the big area, I guess I will, this area here, that roof is now, all of the decking is on that roof. They're laying insulation and starting to put the rubber membrane down. So that's getting tightened up. All of the walls now, except for the little bump out where we have the IT, we're bringing all of the IT equipment from the Justice Center down to this building because it's a better location, and there's some water issues where it is, and water and IT stuff don't mix very well. So that's coming down. That won't be set until we remove what's left in the mechanics area later this summer. This is unheated. Well, this is unheated storage too over here. A lot of the walls have been poured on that, the foundation walls. All the steel's on site. Panasic and Schieffer's doing the concrete work, and what they're doing is as they get pours ready inside, and then because they pour in the morning generally. So when they finish that, they'll go out and work on the walls and stuff on the foundations over here. So they're hopscotching back and forth, using that as fill-in work. So that's where we're at. Jeff, are we going out there in July?
Yes.
Okay, so at the July County Board meeting, we'll give you a tour and show you where we're at.
What time do you want that to start, Mark? Like 4:30?
That's fine, yeah. County Board is at 7 still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. 4:30 will be fine.
Any questions for Mark?
What I would ask is when you come to that building, please wear some substantial shoes. Don't come with sandals or open-toed shoes, please, because you are going to be walking in some dirt. I'm not going to make everybody put a vest and a hard hat on because there won't be anybody working at that time. There will be no risk for stuff falling right now. In the deck area here, when the iron workers weren't shooting that down, they use a pneumatic gun to anchor that, and they didn't want anybody underneath it because if they miss a joist, it's like a bullet. It comes all the way down to the ground. They said a hard hat wouldn't help you. So.
Any further questions? Thanks, Mark. You did a great job. Keep up the good work.
I'm gonna go home and go to bed now.
Yeah, I hear you. Item number 10, update on the acid gas removal system for waste energy facility. Brent Bond, our plant manager.
Good evening. I do not have much of an update about the acid gas removal system. I will say that we received a draft RFP from Volk Engineering. My team and I are currently reviewing that RFP. and we need to make a couple changes to it just to make sure it's right. Once the RFP is complete, we will bring it before the solid waste board for approval, and then we'll be talking more about this in the future. Just want to thank the folks that came out for the tour of the waste energy plant and recycling and acid gas removal system today, and the very good discussion that we had. We had a lot of great questions, and those types of tours, we really like those types of tours. If anybody else wants an in-depth tour or any kind of questions on the acid gas removal system or anything, please feel free to reach out to one or to me or one of the guys there, and we'd be happy to take you through the plant on maybe a cooler day.
And
So that's all I have
supervisors,
this time.
they have the waste energy, when they have their solid waste board, meetings, you're welcome to come. You won't get a per diem, but you're welcome to come, and I'm sure they'd entertain your questions and if you so desire, so. This is a big deal. This acid gas removal. If we don't do it, we aren't gonna have a plant. So, is there any questions for Brent?
No, I was on the tour, nice job, answered the questions, very appreciative. Thank you.
He knows what he's doing. Thanks, Brent.
Yep.
Okay, item number 11. As we said before, I need a motion to approve all 5 zoning amendments. Motion by Supervisor Thompson, seconded by Supervisor Rogers. Is there any questions on any of the zoning amendments?
I want to recurse myself, because my sons are D on that rezoning.
Okay. So on D, Supervisor Straddle's not voting.
Is B the one by Luther Park?
C is. And I've been assured that our zoning committee vetted that, and they feel confident that in the future that things will be handled correctly.
Well, no one's ever sure it's gonna be handled correctly, but the owner of these particular lots, on item C, knows well. It was discussed at length about the owner occupancy and who's got to own these units that are on there. Along with that, the owner lives less than, or I'm gonna call it a quarter of a mile away, and is able to monitor who is on that property, who isn't on the property. And with respect to Luther Park, dozens of properties to the north, dozens to the properties to the south are all zoned RR now. And I'm confident things are going to go well.
If their concern was future, not so much right now. Yeah.
Well, right now I've got 2 grandkids at Luther Park. And I would feel really bad if something went wrong with that, but it was vetted well.
Got a motion and a second to approve all 5 of these zoning ordinance. Any further discussions or questions? Not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Thank you. Motion's passed, the amendments. Item number 12, resolution, appointment of Jessica Hodak to the position of Barron County Clerk. I get a motion by Supervisor Hanson, seconded by Supervisor Heller. Is there any discussion relative to appointing Jess to that position? If not, I'd like to take a roll call vote. We just need a majority, but I'd like a roll call. Is that okay? All right, I won't do it. Forget it, I won't do it. All those in favor of Jess indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Thank you, Jess. Okay.
Is the judge coming to swear in?
Yeah. No, he's not. No, that's not until later yet.
Okay.
Okay, item number 13, 14, and 17. One consent item. Can I get a motion for those 3? Motion by Supervisor Mullins, second by Supervisor Heineke. Any further concerns on those? Not, all those in favor of those 3 indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Okay, that motion, those resolutions carry. Let's see, where are we on? 15? 15, resolution to rescind the resolution 2005-55 dedicating out-of-county prisoner revenue and creating a commitment of funds for Justice Center fixed assets improvements. on that. Jeff did a good job in his updates, explaining what's going on. You know, they've paid off all the debt, is where that money used to go. They have $100,000 that's dedicated in the budget to pay the jailers. After that 100,000 used to go for debt, there's no debt there now, so they're gonna use it for capital improvements at the Justice Center. And there's some that needed, and we wanna keep up that Justice Center, because we got a really good one.
Supervisor, I would move.
Supervisor Buchanan. Second, can I get a second? Second by Supervisor Mosenstein.
Supervisor Cook has asked to be recognized by me before this began.
Well, that's all right.
Okay,
I'm in the,
question.
in favor.
Supervisor Cook's got a question.
Actually, I move to amend the resolution by adding a cap of $675,000. Much like we do with Health and Human Services. And the reason for this is I would have a hard time explaining to my constituents if we had to raise the levy and there were $4 or $5 million sitting there. So I think it's appropriate to put a cap. It's not, we've done it before. And so I move to amend the resolution by adding a cap of $675,000. Anything in addition to that would be returned to the general fund.
There's a second to that. Second by Supervisor Patterson.
Patty Anderson.
Patty Anderson. No, we have to.
You have to take that, you have to vote on that one now. You have an amendment. So you ask, there might be a second amendment. Is there a second amendment to this amendment?
Is there? Okay, so we're gonna be voting on Supervisor Cook's and what?
Just a question, what, some of the things that could be used for would be like a roof replacement and those kind of things. What are the costs of that? Is that anywhere near?
Well, he's actually saying we got a cap at 675. That basically allows us to then change it if there's legitimate reason to do that.
Right, and again, you obviously have the budget process.
Yep.
So if I need a new roof, I budget for a new roof, just like I would budget for a new police
I
car.
think it's a good idea.
Okay, and first, so you're call the question on the amendment.
Yeah, we're actually voting on the cap of 675 and to see if it gets to that, the rest of it goes into the general fund unless we, at a later date, another board decides different. All those in favor of that motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
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 Okay, it's Supervisor Gorge, Supervisor Olson said no. Any other no? Okay, so that motion carries. So now then, the next motion will be the main one, where we vote that 100,000 goes into the, basically the jailer for the Otter County prisoner money. 100,000 goes to the jailer. Up to then, the next up to 675 can go for capital improvements at the Justice Center. And we had a motion on that. Okay. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor of that motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, thank you, everybody. Okay, are we on to 16? Resolution authorizing the use of the American Rescue Plan Act dollars for the purchase of servers, network switches, and peripherals. I believe there's $76.61 that our IT department has done a good job not spending, because they were able to get the equipment they wanted. So that, what was that for? Where are we going with that, Jeff?
We need 2/3 vote. We're going to use that to buy servers and some cloud storage out at the new highway shop. The 86,076.
And we will have to do a roll call 2/3 on that if we get a motion.
Got a motion and a second to approve.
A motion by Supervisor Anderson. Second by Supervisor Banks. Okay. Is there any further?
Bob Anderson.
Bob Anderson.
Yep.
Sorry. Any further discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor of that resolution?
Nope, we need roll call.
Oh, that's right, sorry. Go ahead.
Can't get out of it, Jess.
All right, first one is Dana Heller,
Yes.
Bob Anderson,
Yes.
Stan Buchanan,
Yes.
Audrey Pusalek,
Yes.
Bill Everett, Bill absent, Rick Turcott,
Yes.
Dale Heineke,
Yes.
Bob Rogers,
Yes.
Diane Vaughn,
Yes.
Ron Banks,
Yes.
Terry Lee,
Yes.
Carolyn Bartlett,
Yes.
Pam Fall,
Yes.
Bill Schradel,
Yes.
Gary Taxco,
Yes.
Jim Gores,
Yes.
Gary Nelson,
Yes.
Roberta Mosentein,
Yes.
Pete Olson,
Yes.
Kathy Crew,
Yes.
Carol Moen,
Yes.
Fran Langman,
Yes.
Louis Oki,
Yes.
Peggy Anderson,
Yes.
Randy Cook,
Yes.
Jerry McRoberts,
Yes.
Marv Thompson,
Yes.
Bun Hanson,
Yes.
Stacy Wenzel.
Yes.
All right, 28 yes.
Okay, so that passes. Item number 18, the Barron County Rules and Procedure changes. Now, typically, we just have a first reading here, and then at the next meeting, we have a second reading. Supervisor Taxdahl.
Chairman Oki, I raise a question of privilege asking you refer the matter of the county board and committee meeting attendance back to the July 6th executive committee meeting so that I might address specific concerns that I have with these matters.
And my answer is yes, I will refer it. Now, what we're talking about here is the controversial ones with the rules we have now. All commissions, boards, committee meetings are in person. If you're at a county board meeting, the max you can have is 3 virtually. That's what's in here, but Supervisor Taxdahl is asking that we refer it back to executive to revisit that. If a member disagrees and the member is recognized and states, I can make a call to he's making a call to the chair of parliamentary procedure. They disagree with my ruling, my ruling was to refer it back to executive. If you want to challenge that ruling, and then it requires a second, and then we'll need a 2/3 vote of our group here to overrule my decision to send it back to the executive. So if somebody doesn't want to have this go back to executive and have them revisit it, they want to basically go with what we've got, now's the time to speak up. Well, I guess you get another chance down the road if it goes to the executive, depending on what happens there.
So our main thing, excuse me, Mosentein is the virtual part of the only 3 visits, is this what we're?
That isn't the only thing. We've got Supervisor Taxdahl has that concern. There's other supervisors that have concerns about all meetings, committee meetings in person. Right now, they're attending them virtually, and they may only have virtual meetings for some. So therefore, they wouldn't be able to be on that committee. So they'd like us to revisit it. And I'm referring it back because I think it's a good idea. And to revisit it, we've talked about this for a long time. We haven't done anything. Now we're doing something, but I don't think another month's gonna kill us to revisit it. Supervisor Turcott?
Craig Turcott, if it goes back, it can't be referred back again after that, or can
It
it?
does come back to this assembly. All he's asking is referral on these 2 items. If you're referred to executive, he has to be there and state his case. If he doesn't, he loses his case. If he's there and he states his case, then the executive needs to hear him out and then make a decision as to whether or not they agree or disagree with what he disagrees with. Then it has to come back to this body.
And it could be asked to be referred again for a different reason, but I have to, have to say it, and if you agree with me, it's done. If you don't,
I'd like to point out, it's not just me that.
No, it's not just you. No.
Oh, it is not.
No, I'm saying, I'm not the only one that can go to the executive committee.
Right.
Anybody has a concern about
Right.
this can go to the executive committee.
Yes.
I'm not gonna be the mouthpiece for everybody here,
Okay, Supervisor Vaughn.
So if it's referred back, is that the only thing that could be reconsidered? Because I saw a different part in here that.
I can bring it up, yeah. I can bring it in.
Yeah. If there's something else that you disagree with, yes, now would be time to come to executive and talk about that at the same time. Right?
Everything's fair game.
Okay. So it's wide open again.
That's why it's a first reading.
Yeah.
Well,
Supervisor Mosentein.
As I've been thinking about this, I'm thinking, I know I'm old. One of my buddies here tonight picked me on me. What about if I have a hip repair or something and the limit is 3?
You know, does something like that from a doctor saying that I'm
I think
home and I
there's a-
can't come, that
I think I've got the authority there for unusual circumstances that we could do. If you told me that, you know, I'd make sure I checked it all right there.
It's kind of silent on ADA and all kinds of things. There's not, there's a lot of holes in there.
So, right now it's going back.
I know.
Anybody disagree with it going back? Okay, it's referred back. There we go. Next, when is the executive meeting?
Wednesday, July 6th.
July 6th, okay. 8 AM. Okay, number 19, there's just a list of the American Rescue Plan Act that Jody prepares for us. Is there any questions or concerns there? If not, item number 20, the county municipal residential housing development agreement. And Jeff's really looking at, is there anybody against us looking at this further? And maybe instead of saying affordable housing, maybe we ought to be talking about workforce housing. This county, as well as most of the state and the country, have a lack of childcare, lack of workforce, and a lack of workforce housing. And so Jeff has developed this, and he wants to continue to pursue it with private enterprise, with our legislature, our economic development people, and see if we can help the situation.
What is the feeling on the board? This is something Dave, actually, there has been two since February, two main focus Dave Armstrong and I have worked on. I essentially backed away from the child care issue because the state just gave out $20 million. They have a lot deeper pockets than we do for child care. Tomorrow, it's my understanding they're gonna give $10 million away between Hartwood Technical College and Impact 7 for housing development. What's the will of the board? This is essentially what you would call a super developers agreement. It'd be agreement between the county and the municipality. If they would have a developers agreement under this, that somebody would go out and develop attractive land for homes, for residential homes. The question for the board is, do you support this? Do you want to work with the municipality to see residential expansion at the municipality level? So municipalities are looking to spend their ARPA money in this way, but I'm not going to make a guarantee. I'm not going to make a guarantee, as Supervisor Buchanan's pointed out, that they couldn't put this into a residential TIF or a TID. That would be their decision, Stan. That's a very excellent point. I don't want to guarantee you that they wouldn't put this into a TIF or a TID for 27 years. Something Dave and I have worked on, but there's lots of hours into what you're seeing here tonight. And to continue on, there's going to be a bunch more hours. I'm certainly willing to do it, but I want to know there's some support for it.
Does anybody have a strong feeling against in pursuing it going forward?
Are we pursuing for the whole county or?
Yes.
And it's just for normal housing?
Yes, it's
Yes.
only.
Not for elderly.
No, correct. It's not for nonprofit. It's not for elderly. It's got to be on the tax base because we're using the increments of the tax base to pay back the debt. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get the municipality to buy in to do the build so that you have.
We're just saying creative ways to rectify the problem, basically.
Yep. Okay, I'll work on it. I'll get with Dave Armstrong and.
All right,
get some
21,
work
you're
done.
up on all the other stuff.
All right, hang on. Okay, on item number 21A, I'll just go through these. You know that about this next generation and the PSAPs, that it's kind of a long, drawn-out thing with us in the state legislature. We'll set aside that money that's already been appropriated, so when it comes up again, we don't have to reappropriate the money for that. The piece of property on the junction of Highway 63 and Highway 8 on the northwest corner in the village of Turtle Lake's been sold. That was tax deed property that had some remediation of some gasoline spills and stuff in this past. We owned that for a number of years as tax deed, and that's now been sold. And thanks to John's excellent work on that, working with that corporation to get that up for sale. The opioid settlement is still on with the distributors. John and I have looked at the agreement. We got the agreement, another agreement today. I think it's all fine. We're getting counties in line to get about $1.344 million. One of the decisions the county board's going to have to make is whether you're going to securitize or factor that. You've got Citibank willing to go in and guarantee 54.45% of our money up front they would give us a check right up front for 54.45% of the 1.344 million. And then over a period of 18 years, they would essentially guarantee another 16.67%. So we could be out potentially 30%. These companies are just, they're large B, too small A rated. So they're just under investment grade. These companies, if you're on their side of the equation, you're obviously going to stay under investment grade when you have a huge lawsuit against you that you know you've already lost and going to settle. You're not going to go to investment grade. So the concern is, will they, after this gets done, wait their mandatory time and then file for bankruptcy? Well, that's great, except the securitization agreements that I've already read, if they file for bankruptcy, we're out of securitization anyway. So there's no money to be gained. The only money we're going to get is a bird in the hand or two in the bush. Take our 54.45% up front and go away. My genuine concern is think back 20 years ago, what happened with the tobacco settlement money in the state of Wisconsin? Got all this money, our budget's balanced for 4 years. What happened 4 years later? Whoa, we got a $1 trillion or billion deficit because they took all the money. The point is the board might say, we'll take 54%, we'll take $500,000. You might get a new board 2 years from now, as I put in my update. Hey, guess what? We got $500,000 sitting in a savings account. We're going to go buy ambulances. It can happen. So there's a lot to think about. Noodle on this individually as a board. What you want to do? Do you want to securitize? Do you want to go down that road? Get our money up front? You can only spend it in certain ways, but it's hard to control another board coming on. Something to think about.
Jeff, you had mentioned before that there were counties thinking about capitalizing, and there are advantages to doing that. Do we know how many and who?
It's mainly the larger counties, Randy. It's the larger ones that want to securitize up front because they have much larger accounting departments and finance departments, and they can do it. That's the ones that are thinking about it. It's not the smaller counties so much. So 71 counties in Wisconsin. Polk did not get into this at all. So, yeah. Other questions? High-speed fiber to the towers. This is something Mark Kennecke was tasked with, actually, I think by the executive committee last year to work on. We're trying to get high-speed fiber dedicated over a 20 or 25-year lease. He's working on this. He's telling me he's getting really close to July or August, having something in front of this board to approve. We would like to do that because we're running on now, I believe it's a 14 or 15-year-old microwave system. Obviously, microwave is not the wave of the future. High-speed internet is, so we're working on that. Ehlers Advisories, just so you know, we use Ehlers, this Charles Schwab thing. I'm just telling you in case you heard it on the news. Childcare, I've talked about that. Dave Armstrong's taking it over. More importantly, last week the state gave out $20 million for this. So I don't think the county really needs to get involved. I did put in the most recent tourism information from ED Secretary Armstrong. People are always worried about that. I updated on our work comp dividend, which is really great. Now what we do, we take our work comp dividend and we put it in an account and we smooth out our work comp over years because work comp is cyclical in nature. You'll go a few years and have great years like this, then you'll have a few bad years. What we do is that way you don't jump around the departmental budgets for the work comp costs because work comp costs are borne by each individual department based on their work comp rating, based on the cost per $1,000 of payroll in there. So for example, the highway department, bridge crew is much more expensive to run than the paving crew. So that's why we do this, to level this out over time, because some years we've had good years and some years we've been north of 100%. So it goes that way.
What's our experience mod?
Our experience mod is now less, I don't know, Gary, but it was over 100 at one time.
It's a lot better.
It's a lot better.
You're under 100.
We're under 100,
Yeah.
yes.
We got one of the last couple of years.
Are you in the 80s?
Yes.
We are in the 80s now?
Yeah, I would say 80s, maybe.
Even the 70s? We were in the low 60s at one time when we crept up pretty. We had a person, got hit. They got hit under an underpass, and the person passed away with no estate and no money. So that was completely our work
But
comp.
it's mostly the smaller claims that kill you.
Yeah, or the ones that linger, and that one lingered. So no good questions. Got statistics on the Red Cross blood drive that was here. I told you about the second tranche of the ARPA money. And then just the low-income housing tax credits, getting a lot of questions on this, just as an FYI. City of Barron just received $8 million worth of low-income housing tax credits. So when we're applying for 5.4, as it put in there, it's not a lot of money. It's a big block of money the federal government puts aside for low-income housing. So with that, that's all that I really have. So I don't know where we're gonna end up with that. So then you have the appointments, or your appointments. Oh, wait a minute, Joyce had something.
Workers' comp for 2022 is 0.85.
22 appointments, I'd like to executive committee alternates, appoint Gary Nelson as first alternate and Dan Heller as second alternate. Can I get a motion to that effect? Motion by Supervisor McRoberts, second by Supervisor Turcott. Are there any concerns? Not, all those in favor of appointing those two, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay. 23, claims, petitions, and correspondence. None, okay. 24, future agenda items. I think, Jeff, we had on there.
5 PM, but let's make it 4:30 for the highway department to give a little extra time for walk around. So I said 5, let's go 4:30.
And I think August 22nd, not the 20th, I think. Too.
Okay, all right.
And just so you know, I know that everybody got a letter on the dark money for voter things from the Barron County Republican Party. I'm sure somebody along the line is gonna ask me to put that on the agenda. Do I think it's a good idea? Yes. Do I want it on the agenda? No. But Barron County's doing a good job keeping Democrat versus Republicans out of our business. The state and feds need to weigh in on this stuff, not us. So, I'm gonna talk about it with board leadership, but if you ask me now, I'm not gonna put it on the agenda, but that's not set in stone. Anything else for future agenda items?
Mr. Chair?
Yep, Supervisor Olson?
I think we need an update in 2 or 3 months on restorative justice.
Yep, sure we will, because Stacy kind of indicated the end of summer, so that'd be good.
I got one thing.
Okay, Supervisor Gores?
I just wanted to say there that
The DNR, the Barron County Highway Department, even the DOT, everybody worked together. It was a fabulous job. Let's see. We got everything else, I guess. Any other concern? Oh, Supervisor Vaughn.
I just want to go on record saying I would like this added to our agenda. No private money in our elections. I don't think that should be any partisan issue. I don't think anybody should want private money in our elections.
And I think it is a partisan issue. And I do not intend on putting it on, so. At this point in time.
You got a request, you made a formal ask. Okay, well, you have to make a decision.
I indicated I'm gonna talk with board leadership about it, and we'll see where it goes. Anything else? Not, by unanimous consent, we'll adjourn at 8:48.